Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast, where I interview experts in their space, either as it relates to pest control, home services, marketing, employee engagement, all those types of things. I've got a fantastic guest on today, Erika Milenkovic. She is a small business owner out of Baltimore, Maryland, and I can't wait to introduce her here in just a moment. She's also in our space, the pest space and the home service space. Before I do this episode, as they all are, it's brought to you by my company, Moxie Pest Control. Lots of exciting things happening here with us. We're growing, we're continuing to grow. Part of how we've done that is via acquisition. And so if you are a small business pest owner that's got 3 or 4 or 5 plus trucks on the road, a real reputable brand, and are looking to see what the next chapter of your life might be or might look like, I'd certainly love to be able to visit with you and talk with you about if we could be a good option for that. If not, it would be a good conversation nonetheless to be able to provide you any information that you might like. Reach out to me directly. You can call or text me on my cell. It's 480-254-9730. You can email me directly as well at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. Erika and I, we just got to know each other a little bit before we went live. She is doing some really amazing things. She started and founded a company about 9 years ago, and it is Pest Czar Pest Control out of Baltimore, Maryland. She is definitely growing as well. It's becoming a not startup or small business, but she's graduating into a mid-sized type business with a handful of employees that I know are very, very important to her. And one of the things that I found most interesting as we visited, which I think we'll probably get into and spend the meat of this and bulk of this conversation, is while her company and customers and employees in Baltimore, Maryland, she is running it remotely from Florida. And so in this case, she is the remote employee that is managing and doing all of those types of things from afar. Before she was in pest control, she was an exhibiting fine artist and won awards working in different nonprofits there in Baltimore. And the things that she's been able to do previous to pest control has certainly helped her in her pest control journey. And so, Erika, it is very, very nice to meet you. Thank you for spending time with me and my audience. How are you doing today?
Yeah, thank you, Austin. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing fantastic. You know, it's as we record this, it's the middle of December. And so you in Florida, me in Arizona, we are just enjoying weather that no one else in between us is enjoying. It's freezing cold everywhere else.
Yeah, I think we're untouchable. Everyone else is suffering, but I'm having a good time. I like it right here in Florida.
Perfect. I want to get into a little bit maybe of your backstory. So we didn't talk about this before we went live, but tell us a little bit about some of your path and some of your journey. So before pest control, what was it exactly you were doing? How did that help prepare you? And then why the plunge into pest control?
Sure. Yeah, so I actually grew up in Colorado, and the whole reason I ever moved to Baltimore was to pursue an art degree. There's a art college there that's pretty well known, and I got my bachelor's of art there. I also met my ex-husband when I was in Baltimore, and he worked in the pest control industry. So I had different jobs after college. One of my first jobs was working in customer service at a live theater. So I was selling tickets and helping loyal customers and scheduling, kind of like a CSR would do for pest control. So I gained some skills there, just my very entry-level job. And then I worked in nonprofits after that, where I was doing administrative work, and it was a small business setting there as well, like only maybe 5 people on a staff that I worked at nonprofits. And we were very engaged with the community. all different types of people were volunteering, all different types of people were our clients. So I had a lot of exposure to many people that lived in my area, and a lot of Baltimore talk, of course, going on in that type of setting. So, yeah, in 2013, my husband at the time wanted to start a pest control business. And I totally supported that. And after about 6 months, he needed help on the administrative side. And I had plenty of experience just working with customers, working with the people, especially when it comes to coordinating schedules and um, selling things as well. So I was a good person for him to recruit to join the business and handle the scheduling with customers, handle the phones, handle the office. So that's kind of how it all got started. Later on, we grew at a good pace. We could hire a few people. After a couple of years, we were able to hire a few people, and we got some really good employees that are still with me today.
How
So
about that?
yeah, so having those employees that learned your way of doing things and embraced what we were trying to do and embraced the opportunities, that gave us confidence to move to Florida. Because so in 2018, my grandma, who I'm very close to, had a cancer diagnosis. And I actually also had a cancer diagnosis a few months after that. So we both have recovered from that. But when that happened, it sort of struck me that it would be nice to live closer to some family. Because out in Baltimore, we didn't have anyone living near us, no relatives at all. And we also had 2 kids. So just thinking like maybe it would be nice to live closer to some family, and our employees are so great. Like, I think we could handle this. So in 2019, we moved to Florida, and it's been running. I mean, we have our software here, we have our phones. I did take over the business completely last year, since we did get a divorce. So now the company is 100% mine, since 2021, and I am able to visit Baltimore. My goal is usually around like 4 to 6 times a year to go out there and see my team. And then, obviously stay in touch when I'm not there, just communicating with text or Zoom. The pandemic, kind of also made those things more normal. So it's been quite a journey, and luckily it's been working pretty well. We have seen growth really year after year since the business started, whether we lived in Baltimore or not. And now that I have had the company on my own for a while, still it is doing well. We had last year in 2021 compared to 2020, we had a 50% growth in revenue. And
Wow.
then, yeah, and then this year I'm predicting the revenue growth from last year would be about 18%. So, so yeah, but 2021 was still amazing despite different types of hardships. And now we're still doing very well. I'm just trying to figure out some of the next steps to keep us continuing to grow, like no matter what's going on.
What would you say, Erica? I have a lot of follow-up questions, but what would you say? I mean, steady growth year over year, that's not crazy uncommon. And I think a lot of us experienced a bump 2020 in 2020 or 2021, depending on what type of pest control, line we're in. What would you attribute that growth to, though? How did you do it?
Yeah. So The more I try to understand that, I do think it still comes down to managing the employees correctly, more than anything else, because I have had a hard time, sometimes figuring out the marketing budget and who to work with when it comes to marketing, what's going to be the best strategy for us. But I feel like it never fails if I set some more expectations on the employees, or give them more opportunities, give them different types of incentives, and make sure that we're really working well together as a team. That always, has rewards to it. Um, since the beginning, we've always been about customer reviews and our reputation. Everyone that works here at Pest Czar understands that reviews mean a lot, and employees are incentivized for getting reviews from customers, and they know that that's expected of them to deliver amazing service and to make sure our customers are happy. So that's something that we've never lost, is the focus on the customer and the focus on performing at a high level. And then also, I would say just the momentum of business in general. Um, I think that really you can start seeing that as time goes on, that you really do gain something from just, sticking it out year after year, being persistent, and learning. You just keep gaining experience, learning from each failure, learning more about each other, as the workplace shifts, or as the times shift. Having a consistent team and having people that are key to your business. You can't undervalue the people that stay and the people that make things smooth for you. Because I've been in other workplaces in the past where there is high turnover, and it was obvious that a high turnover really hurts the business. So I think that might be the most important thing, is just having those consistent, excellent employees, and making sure that they're staying and growing.
And you can't do it all alone. I mean, you can't grow a company the way you have all by yourself. Someone's got to do the calls, take the calls, run the routes, do the billing, file the taxes, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So as far as remote working goes, I love this because it's kind of opposite. I mean, remote working's been around for a little while. I love that you did this pre-pandemic, because I think that forced a lot of people to do it, but you did this proactively. What, maybe speak to us about some of the challenges of the owner operator not living locally, or with where the business is, rather, and then what's been fantastic about it.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I feel like, well, the disadvantages, it is that loss of FaceTime and, just some of those like basic, simple connections that you experience. Because we used to have an office that I went to every day, when I was in Baltimore, and I understood that being around my employees and being there in that office really did help with some of those connections, and just kind of, you might take it for granted that you sort of know that person that you're working with. So it is a little bit of a challenge to recreate or make up for some of that. But as far as what you gain from it, I know for sure. So I have one office manager who really, really appreciates the fact that she can work from home. And I also appreciate it for myself, obviously. Like I actually feel like I don't even have a choice in the matter at this point. Like I obviously have to work from Florida. I'm not moving back to Maryland.
Taking care of family.
Yeah, so So it is really nice that people can have more time at home, more flexibility. And I can see if I want to look up statistics or data, I can find pretty much anything I want to find if when it comes to who's doing what in the software, or where the phone's answered, or the GPS on the trucks. So you can certainly monitor everything quite well remotely. Same thing, of course, with money and billing. Like, you can pretty much keep track of everything. The thing that's lost is, just that human interaction that just happens in those passing moments in the day. So I do miss that. I do think that's still important as well. But I know that, like with my technicians, I have a very good operations manager, service manager there in Baltimore, who's been with us the longest. So he's a very key person that I rely on to really, develop the rest of the team as well. So that's one thing I do want to continue focusing on, is even if I'm not the one that's able to be there myself in person, I do want to have that other key people will be able to fill that. And they understand me after working with me a long time. They knew me when I lived in Baltimore, and they know me now. So I feel like as long as that can still translate from other key people in the business, that's what I'm trying to do now, is just to make sure that I'm developing my key people and every person that comes into the business, because I really do love the accessibility of the pest control industry. Anyone that gets hired now, I feel like could potentially have the potential to grow in the business. So making sure that everyone understands that there are growth opportunities, and making sure that we create and support employee growth. I think that's what I want to focus on. And I just realized that I have to do it by developing my people, even if I have to do it like in a different way than other people might. I'm looking for those resources now to get them trained well and get them prepared well for leadership roles and whatever we need to do next.
What Erica would your employee? I mean, I imagine when you talked to them in 2019, it was probably a little bit of a surprise, or what was their reaction, and what would they say is going well about that transition? I mean, it's not a transition anymore; it's done. But how are they liking things?
Sure. Well, yeah, I do think at the time it was quite a surprise. And honestly, the way that it happened when me and the other business partner moved down here, I do think it may not have been like the best execution on how we did that. Um, but there's always ways to fix that along the way. So, at first, I do think the employees may have been, a little skeptical or a little unsure how things would work when we started living down here. Um, but since then, it's just a learning process. So there's been a lot of changes since 2019. Just everyone has had a lot of changes from the pandemic and everything else. So it really became about adapting to the situation. Like me and the other co-owner at the time had to, figure out what should we be doing when we have to do it like this. How do we manage? How do we communicate from a long distance? And then they had to, sort of realize that they will be taking more ownership of their position and of, the customer experience. Pest control, on its own already is sort of like people say you have a lot of independence and you're not, 100% supervised all of the time. So it does, it's not impossible to run it long distance because so many of your employees are out there kind of functioning without direct supervision anyway. So it just became a little bit more of a shift of, we will be having, one of our workers now will be like the manager because we didn't want to leave that like totally empty, like no manager there. So that was kind of the transition, was like us sort of stepping back a little bit from a little of those managing duties day to day, and then just letting someone else step up and become that operations manager.
It probably was, a little bit of a shock, but also an exciting thing for your employees that are ambitious to be able to say, hey, this move or this adjustment will allow some opportunities perhaps for me to move up, showcase some of my skills, take on more responsibility, grow and learn those different sorts of things. What Erica would you say so to like a business owner that owns a home service company? So for example, me, I live in Phoenix. What if I want to live in Hawaii and try to or attempt to run my business? I mean, is that something you recommend? It was sort of, I guess, in your situation, I don't know if forced upon you is the right way to say, but you felt very strong about moving closer to home and family. But is that something you recommend? Is that kind of something for each person to decide on their own and kind of weigh the pros and cons and the situation?
Sure. I feel like there's obvious hurdles when you do decide to move long distance. I think I might not recommend it to everybody. I do think it does present challenges that are, not necessarily needed. Like you don't need more challenges to run your business. But then again, what it can do is really, if it really helps you to see what's really important in the business and just focus on the key core things that perhaps you're supposed to be doing as the leader and the owner, and then really empowering the rest of your staff to step into places that you maybe didn't think you wanted other people getting into those responsibilities quite yet. But I think yeah, if you move to a different place, then pretty much you're understanding that the people that are still left in your service business, they do need to be trusted and they do need to be empowered. And so if that's something a person like a leader, if that's how you want your business to be run, with like I feel like I have actually a lot of freedom here in Florida to live my life, but also, still have a nice business going. That's working pretty well for me. And then I would say for my employees too, I think they're succeeding. It just, there will be some bridges to cross that are unfamiliar. And you just have to be ready for, taking a risk like that.
So as we kind of start to round this out, and it's so interesting. So I'm in Phoenix, like I said. My operations manager, Eleni, she's a total boss. We have probably close to or around 40 office employees that work out of our operations center in Phoenix. About 2 years ago, so not too long after you, she's from Miami. And so she moved back. So the last 2.5 years, she's been running our entire operation. And there were certainly some things to figure out, get used to. You're operating over a couple of different time zones. I don't know if you have that challenge with, Florida and Maryland, but it can be done. It certainly can be done. And the role that she feels is a terribly important role. And so that's one that we definitely need to get right. But as we start to round this out in the next couple of minutes, you've talked, Erica, a lot about your employees and the development of your employees. and I think that I get a good vibe of kind of some of your philosophy and investing in them and training them and those sorts of things. But what tools have been useful or helpful to you in developing your, I mean, do you subscribe to some sort of leadership program, or are there books that you recommend, or what, in your opinion, is the best way that you've seen to develop people to become better today than they were yesterday?
Sure. Yeah, so I for sure feel like the business constantly evolves, and so everyone sort of needs to continue learning and improving themselves. I feel like for me, I get the most out of business books, a little bit.
Any favorites?
Well, there was one that I think does apply to me a little bit, which is the 4-Hour Work Week.
Okay.
Um, because the author there kind of describes, really letting other people do the work, really finding like what is the real necessary parts of the work and how do you let other people do a lot of what you need done. So I liked that one, but I think really for my employees, I personally gain a lot from going to Pest World, and I've only been twice actually, but when I go, I am able to make connections and like hear more from other business owners. And so I'm starting to realize I've talked to a few business owners at this point, and like some of them have mentioned the book Traction and that whole EOS entrepreneur system. So when I hear that multiple times in different ways, it makes me think like we need to get more of a structure going on and more training on like how the business should be run, or like um, so I do have plans for next year on actually intentionally getting some of my key employees additional training from like pest control trainers, because I did hear of a few resources recently from other business owners where it's like maybe some consulting and one-on-one coaching, which has helped me in the past. I've gotten coaches for myself, but I do think at this point, I would like some of my other employees to get more of that type of education and that type of coaching. So I think I'm starting to think that might be something I need to look into way more, is mentoring and coaching. Also, I've noticed there's just so many really good webinars out there too. Like PCT Online has like a library of webinars actually. So I want to allow my employees to, if they have a short day or something where they don't have the schedule full of customers, I would like them to take some time and pick some webinars either on that website, or there could be many other websites where they can at least, look into some type of topic and advance their knowledge. So that's kind of what I'm feeling that we should focus on now, is just everybody developing themselves and making the most impact and reaching the potential that they have.
No, that's incredible. And irregardless of what you decide to do for development for your employees moving forward and in the future, obviously, whatever you've done in the past has helped to build them. A company doesn't grow unless its employees are growing professionally and personally. And so, congratulations, well done. That is very, very exciting. And thank you for sharing your time with me and my audience. Erika, it really means so much. If there are people that are listening that are interested in continuing the conversation, what is the best way for them to get in contact with you or interact with your company or your website? How do they do that?
Sure. Well, you can find me on LinkedIn, Erika Milenkovic, or you can email me, Erika, ERIKA, at pestczar.com. So, but yeah, I welcome anybody that would like to talk more. I am focusing on expanding my network overall, just because I realized like any type of conversation that happens in the pest control industry, there's usually some insights and things that I can learn from anybody. So I do appreciate talking about business and being able to talk with you, Austin.
Hey, of course. And thank you again, Erica. Thank you, everyone, for patching in and tuning in. And until the next time, create a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.